This is modern day high school, and these are the Ball brothers. You may have heard of them before. And this was a high school game back in the year of 2016. One of the most prolific high school sports programs in the country, coming off of a national championship just 2 seasons prior against a public school with a 14-year-old starting at shooting guard. 8 D1 recruits against a team with only 1 senior and virtually no basketball history to show for. 4 years ago, this was one of the most hyped matchups in the country. But, I forgot to mention one part. Yeah. Your eyes do not deceive you. This was the actual score of this game. At halftime, somehow, these 3 brothers and their 2 friends absolutely walked one of the best teams in the entire country. And this was just one of 35 wins Chino Hills piled up that season, with no losses. But let's take it back real quick, because as great as Lonzo was, as much potential as LaMelo displayed, and as dominant as Chino Hills was, this was never supposed to happen. On November 30th, 2015, Chino Hills played the first game of their season. And you could say it was a pretty solid debut, beating San Bernardino High School by 89 points. See, the Ball brothers weren't making national headlines just because they were pretty good, or because they were 3 brothers committed to UCLA, or because their father was absolutely goated. They were grabbing national attention because they were really, really good. The hype they were getting was completely warranted. In the 2015-2016 season, their starting 5 consisted of Lonzo, LiAngelo, LaMelo, Onyeka Okongwu, and Eli Scott. And this might as well have been the entire team, because no one else even sniffed playing time for virtually the entire season. On paper, this looks like a solid squad, but nothing that shouts best high school team in the country. They were starting only 1 senior and 2 freshmen. How could this team possibly run the table and come out as national champs? Well, the closer you look, the more clear the answer to that question becomes. Of course, Lonzo went on to be the 2nd overall pick in the 2017 NBA draft, and over the last 2.5 seasons has shown glimpses of having all-star potential. He was the engine to this Chino Hills team. He was arguably the best player in the country in 2016, and without him, we would have never even heard of the Ball brothers. Then there's LaMelo, who should have been an 8th grader but reclassified to play with his brothers. We all saw the potential there, but as a 5'8", 14-year-old, I don't think anyone could have predicted that just 4 years later he would be slated to go 3rd overall in the NBA draft. But quietly holding down the paint, cleaning up everything that came his way, was this unassuming 15-year-old. Unless you follow Chino Hills closely, you've probably never even heard of this kid. 6'8", freshman center Onyeka Okongwu, who finished his high school career as the 20th best recruit in the entire country, has put up 17, 9, and 3 on 60% shooting this season at USC, and is projected to go 13th overall in this year's NBA draft. That makes potentially 3 NBA lottery picks on the same public high school team. Then there's LiAngelo, who has never gotten the same love as his brothers, but what most forget to mention is that LiAngelo was the leading scorer of this team. When in doubt, give it to Jello, and he'll get you a bucket. He averaged 28 points a game on the best team in the country in 2016 and was the 8th leading scorer in the nation with 34 points a game in his senior season. And last but certainly not least was Eli Scott, a guy who I always thought of as the Draymond Green of Chino Hills. Now, I know that sounds bad, but I'm not talking about 2020 triple single Draymond Green. I'm talking about spark plug, glue guy, heart of the team, all-star Draymond Green. The 2 least regarded players on the team, and they were both still top 50 in the country at their positions. And with these 5 players, and only these 5 players, Chino Hills had one of the most historic runs in high school basketball history. In fact, of all the teams I have ever watched, of the hours and hours of high school film I've broken down, I have never seen a more complete, cohesive, and dominant team. 2016 Chino Hills was the best high school basketball team I have ever seen. Sounds crazy, I know, but you don't have to take my word for it. Just take a look at the receipts. Throughout their national championship run, Chino Hills went 35-0, being the only public school in the last decade to win a national title. In those 35 wins, Chino Hills won by an average margin of 30 points. But these boys weren't just whooping up on some garbage teams. On their path to winning those 35 games, they went through 5 of the top 30 teams in the country and 11 of the top 100 teams in the country. Foothills Christian was ranked as the 29th best team in the United States, and Chino Hills mopped the floor with them 3 times that season. They also beat 6th ranked Bishop Montgomery twice. Almost half of their games were against top 100 ranked teams, and they never lost. Among the numerous L's they handed out that year, one of them was to Montverde Academy, the 7th ranked team in the country with 2 future NBA players in RJ Barrett and Anthony Simmons. This is a future NBA player. This is a 14-year-old. Bruh. They beat Redondo Union, the 13th best team in the country. They beat 20th ranked Sierra Canyon with future NBA player Marvin Bagley. They beat 29th ranked Foothills Christian with future NBA player TJ Leaf. They beat the best team in Nevada, Bishop Gorman, with Zach Collins. They beat the best team in North Carolina with Bam Adebayo. And they beat the best team in New York at the time, Jefferson High School. Do you want me to keep going? Yeah, I think y'all get the point. With 2 freshmen and only 1 senior playing, Chino Hills beat the brakes off of every single team they faced. They were literally unstoppable. 3 brothers, 2 close friends, and a public school with limited resources somehow climbed the ranks and topped every other team in the country. This is a feat that we will more than likely never see again. But before capping off their season as national champions, Chino Hills had to face off against arguably the most prolific, proven, and deadly squads in high school basketball, Mater Dei. In the previous season, the Mater Dei Monarchs finished as the 14th best team in the country, and 2 seasons prior had won the national championship. Led by Spencer Friedman, a player that has personally snatched my ankles The Chino Hills Mater Dei matchup was set to be one of the premier games of the season. Mater Dei was stacked. They were blowing teams out by 40 points every other game. With 8 D1 recruits, this was going to be a battle. A private school with a prestigious sports history against a public school with a loud bald guy behind their bench. The line to get into the gym wrapped around the block, everyone eagerly awaiting the matchup of the year. Man, this is going to be a
Are you sure about that?
In what would later be recognized as the best game the Ball brothers ever played, Chino Hills absolutely ran Mater Dei out of the gym. By the end of the first quarter, Chino Hills was up by 27, and by the fourth quarter, they were ahead by 51 points. Look at this. LaMelo, damn near a foot shorter than anyone from Mater Dei, drops a dime to my man Eli Scott, and Eli viciously packs one while Mater Dei stands idly by, praying the mercy rule comes into effect and puts them out of their misery. Which it virtually did, since the refs had to implement a running clock to stop the game from getting any more out of hand than it already was. Mater Dei's coach, the most winningest high school basketball coach in the history of California, said that he had never saw a running clock in his 34-year career. Well, that's because he had never played against the Ball brothers. But wait, that's not even the best part. Them boys started celebrating in the middle of the game, acting real goofy right there on the court. Didn't even have the decency to call a timeout. Just said, "F it, we up 50, let him have a bucket." I'm sick to my stomach. And to make matters worse, Chino Hills was beating Mater Dei so bad that while the game was going on, they were trying to think of plays to keep the crowd excited. I cannot fathom a more disrespectful way to win a basketball game. Dog, this is just rude. But that's how the majority of Chino Hills games went back in 2016. A lot of blowouts, a lot of hurt egos, and many, many highlights. I don't think we've ever seen a high school team with as much hype and attention ever, and rightfully so. What the Ball brothers did was unheard of. It was exciting. I know this because LeVar Ball has aggressively reminded us for the past 4 years. But how could you blame him? His boys, along with their childhood friends, made it through the gauntlet and came out the other side completely unscathed. Yet, for as much notoriety as they have received, the 92-point game, the UCLA incident, the Lonzo saga, their own reality TV show, which, by the way, is still airing, somehow their historic 2015-2016 season has gotten lost in the shuffle. So here's your reminder. Back in 2016, a previously unknown group of kids grabbed the world's attention, knocked off the best teams in the country, and for 4 short months, had us all tuned in to watch the most exciting show in basketball. Hope you all enjoyed. LeVar Ball's the GOAT, and until next time.